Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Brightworks. Today, we're going to be taking a look at some proper, high-level 8v8s. These are some of the best players you'll see when you hop on and jump into a battle. When you muster the courage to hop into your first 8 versus 8 battle. If your team, if the enemy team has any of these players on it, you're in for a rough fight. So don't take that one personally. Now that being said, this is a fairly balanced game, and we're gonna have a lot of fun here. Really recognizable names. Uncle Randolph. This player has a lot of different accounts, but there's always some form of Dolph, Dolf. That's how you can always find that player. We also have the True King. He's been around a few times. Seen him pop up here and there. Mom's Boy Toy, always a fan favorite. Some interesting strategies. Playing back, can't wait to see what he does. Going for that bot lab first. Probably not going to be using bots, but you always start bot labs, as we all know, as we're all well familiar. Swiggle Diggle, that's a player that I haven't seen before, but pretty high TS, and he's playing with the big boys, so excited to see what goes on. That's a lot of air, or rather a lot of wind power for starting up, but I guess he's future-proofing, and that's all good. Greenlee now with the more complicated, the more difficult naval path here. Looks like he's just going to go straight for Navy here. I don't hate it. That's another way to do it. If your enemy gets dolphins out or some other unit to harass you, it can definitely be a pain, but we'll see how this goes. Have to keep an eye on that. Dolphy, on the other hand, doing a much more familiar hovercraft build where you start back here and you start sending out hovercrafts. He's going to be sending 3 of them across. Wow, what a nice, beautiful pattern there. Hopefully harassing Enzord Raka. Now we do have a push here from Enzord Raka to move out, but he's going for hovercraft, which is interesting. That's difficult to pay for hovercraft and naval at the same time because they're both so expensive in metal. But in this specific case, it's going to be extremely helpful for him against Randolph. Now, pardon me for just a second while I mute everything on Discord. I know those sounds popping up are definitely going to be a couple of you just checked. you just looked on your computer's tab and were like, what? Nobody messaged me. What just happened? Sorry about that. I do apologize. Sending this construction bot or construction hovercraft all the way across right at the start. It's actually in a race against this construction hovercraft, the great race. But he did send a scout hovercraft, so that I'll actually be able to contest. Now Dolphy has made land, and right about now, Enzord is about to make the first contact. I guess that's not fair to say. These guys have been battling up here for a while. Stets and the True King going at it. Stets just bold-faced tanking that laser turret right there. What a Chad. Wow, and the laser turret survives. No way. Oh, 1% health. That's so tough. Almost getting a commander kill with a light laser turret. How impressive would that be? Greenlee did get his naval start up and running. Looks like Legion Commander hasn't really contested that much on the sea yet. Still, messing around with the hovercrafts. What are we doing in the back lines of each team? Tree Frog. Looks like he's going air. He's got a few scouts out. Does he have anything queued? He's got a transport queued up, so maybe thinking about going for this island over here. But he does scout that the Greenlee commander is over there, so that might dissuade him. And Volshok, sacrificing his commander right there, caught his explosion just in time. Looks like he's going to go Tech 2, so he's going to be supplying his whole team, ideally, with Tech 2 constructors. And that'll be a huge boon to their economy and get them up and running. Now on the other side, Mom's Boy Toy looks like he's pumping out a bunch of ticks, probably looking to harass, maybe even snipe a commander here. You need about 20 ticks to sniper commander, and you have to get them all attacking pretty quickly. But if you can, they actually can bring down commanders pretty fast. Decent economy, up to 14 metal per second for Mom's Boy Toy. And Swiggle Diggle going T2 already, so he'll be the T2 supplier for his team. Building a nice big wind farm. That's always what we like to see out of our idle builders. Building nice big wind farms. It looks like the front line has sort of semi-stabilized. All of these rocks, by the way, are consumable. So you can see there's actually a lot of metal and energy stored up in these rocks here. So that's important. Now, Dolphy in a bit of trouble. His hovercraft constructors are being harassed by this armada of Seekers. Definitely a problem. His light gunboat going to be able to put in a little bit of damage. And he actually decides to self-destruct, but it's not in time. That is a bummer. That's going to set Dolphy back quite a bit. He's going to have to eat all this if he wants to have the metal to build a new one, basically. He also lost this, of course, because the Seeker was here. So Enzord really holding firm on the naval command here, making some strong moves. Of course, I guess he was assisted by Wing R, who's going hovercraft. Kind of an interesting play, but I do like it. Probably thinking about sneaking around this way. We'll see where he goes with those. And they're out. Let's see what his Q is. Oh, actually, he's just going to continue harassing Randolph. Yeah, Dolphy's in a bit of trouble. He doesn't really have a great answer for these right now. So all of these construction hovercraft are in sort of a bit of impending doom. Now, the front line has been pushed steadily in the favor of the Blues team. The Rainbow team, I guess. I always call this the Blue team. And this is the Red team. Generally, people understand what I mean by that. We do have a submarine here. That's good for harassment. That'll be able to at least break some of these mexes and shut down some of this power production. Very, best thing you could hope for is to take out the commander. These submarines, just as a fun fact, they do 10% of a commander's health per hit. So it'd have to hit the commander 10 times, which would be difficult, but definitely not impossible. The torpedo launcher is up, though, and that's just slightly outranging the boat. I guess technically they have the same range, which is interesting, but it's not the sub is going to be at a disadvantage there. Dolphy gets his Tech 2 constructor, as well as some of the other people are probably going to start getting those as well. But this big hovercraft army is moving in. Very daunting to see. He didn't finish the building here, but he must have spotted that huge presence right there. Looks like he's going to try and degun them. Maybe self-destruct. He calls GG. I doubt that's actually a game giving up GG. I think he probably just means that, this is going to be a tough fight to win. And indeed, what do you do here? I mean, you can't really build defenses because they're not going to be able to hit the range, right? Your shipyard has gone down twice now, so you're at a huge metal disadvantage. There are some T2 units being brought over here. That's always good to see. Those will help for sure. Those hounds can put out a lot of damage. The Northern Sea, a little bit more of a contest, I guess you could say. Although a lot less action. Looks like, for the most part, just big navies being built up, but not a lot of harassment. Legion Commander actually going T2 and in a lot of trouble for it. He only has 4 Dolphins and a Skater. That's probably not going to be enough to hold up against these Elsas. This is a whole contingent of Elsas and Skaters, so that's enough anti-air to swoop that out and a firepower to deal with those Dolphins. However, mid is being pushed in rather nicely, so the fronts that are going on the right and the left are being made up for by the huge pushes on the middle section. It looks like Pink has kind of been taken out a little bit, actually. Been suffering a lot of damage here, so no wonder the front line is being so harassed. Now, a menacing group of tanks has actually broken through to... Whose base is this? Concord? What is that? Corporal Sarm. Or SRAM? Maybe it's SRAM. I think that's a type of missile. Anyway, Corporal SRAM has, his base has just been ravaged, so he's also at a little bit of a deficit right now, and that's going to mean that the True King and Put can push through here with a little bit more ease. Those commanders, of course, just should be eating up these dead bodies whenever they can and sending that metal back to themselves, if not to their teammates. Backlines for both players, up to T2 now. Looking on, upgrading these T2 mexes. Getting those all patched up, starting up our T2 energy converters. That's very nice. We've got hounds coming out. That'll be very helpful moving up to the front line. Definitely necessary because these are these could make the difference in stopping this T1 push here. Now this huge batch of hover tanks, these crocodiles, have moved through and actually snuck around the back of Green's base, so that might give them enough leverage. The red team, that is, the leverage they need to hold this front line long enough for T2 units to come support. Very interesting back and forth here. Definitely a close game. Couldn't really tell you who's winning. This T2 factory does come up and online, which is surprising, honestly. I thought that was going to take a lot more damage. Looks like there must have been a little bit of a conflict here with all these boats that are brought down, but apparently not enough to cripple either navy substantially. That being said, Greenlee is still on T1, so these T2 ships are going to absolutely lay the hurt down on these T1 ships and all the shipyards and everything else in the ocean. Those ships do not mess around. Now Dolphy finally getting his shipyard out, finally getting some boats out of his own, and forced to send them directly across because he knows that if he doesn't do some damage to this team, or to this Navy player, he's going to build up a Navy substantially stronger than his, little by little. Now Dolphy does have the economy advantage here if he can deny some of these metal extractors, because remember, if you have the same amount of, if the water player has all the metal extractors here, you have the same amount. If you can kill any of them, then they will have less. And so that's probably what Dolphy is looking to do. But at the same time, also, Enzor does not have any T2 metal extractors. Whereas Dolphy is up to 3 at this point. Almost 4. Which, of course, is going to give him a huge metal advantage. In fact, let's check his economy real quick. Up to 39 metal a second, maybe a little more or less with energy converters. Versus... let's see. Just select these manually because there is more than these. He does not have this spot, which is kind of an oversight. But yeah, 28. Not really very much. And now his energy production is being attacked as well, which means he is going to start e-stalling. His defenses go down with these ships, kind of lodging themselves up into the inner workings of his base. They're kind of messing things up. And suddenly, Enzord is very low on power, and the naval battle is shifting steadily towards Dolphy's control. Huge, I guess you might call it a unit, huge battalion of crocodiles, hover tanks, moving up this landmass here, looking to secure this island. Not a bad idea at all. This can turn the tide. In fact, I didn't even consider this. I didn't realize that Enzord had control of this. Could have been the advantage that he needed, but it looks like he just didn't build enough units. Which is, of course, the bane of every RTS player's existence. More units beats less units. Almost every time. It's the rule of thumb, anyway. You do see anti-nukes finishing up here. Right on time, about 13 minutes. That's pretty good. Because we do see a nuke actually being built from Swiggle Diggle. What a fellow. Swiggle Diggle with an economy of 49 and 1289-ish. That's a little early for a nuke, in my opinion, anyway. Mom's Boy Toy, not sure what the idea is here. Maybe just building up some metal while we micro units on the front line. Probably better, though, to just give these units to somebody else. Looks like Stez has sort of given up. Their construction bots are AFK. That is really a shame. Hopefully they will either resign and their team can use them, or somehow that gets resolved. Some lightning tanks, which I've been growing more and more fond of recently. Commander goes down here. Who was that for? Green, the True King. The True King falls. Would you look at that? True King falls, and that's going to be a lot of metal that would be wonderful to claim if they can get their hands on it. I am wondering what Stez is up to. Looks like he's just kind of giving up. That's part of the balancing, right? Both of these teams have their lower rank players, and that's all right. I commend them for their boldness stepping into this battle. Whether they knew that they were, jumping into the higher rank lobbies or not, they did, and they're going to learn a lot from it. Now, that's a lot of tanks, but these hounds do put a lot of AoE damage out. So you can see that a lot of them are pretty low on health. And indeed, they're going to start falling pretty quickly. Yeah. That's almost half of them destroyed already. Now, Dolphy has walked his way all the way across to over here. He must have known that essentially there was no way Enzord was going to be able to rebuild in time. So he just positioned himself over here to get a nice advantage. I don't hate that at all. He does have his T2 shipyard up, and he's starting up a constructor ship, which I can't see the outline for, oddly enough. Interesting. Oh, there it is. Love the design on those. Look like a shirk or something. As well as a combat ship. A little bit of a tick run by. Always nice. Good way to put out some harassment. Those ticks are just so fast and so difficult to catch. Definitely worth it. Now these Volshock hover tanks have come in and started wreaking havoc. They're going to tear apart this wind farm first. And maybe they'll make their way up towards Mom's Boitoy's base. Now, Mom's Boitoy does not have anything to contest this, at least not at the moment. Building some medium laser turrets, beamers as they are. Always dangerous to say that name. You gotta be very careful. Really pronounce the M. And looks like we're gonna try and paralyze as many of these as we can. Really good hit. You really can't ask for anything better than that. And he's got some T1 vehicles he's pumping out. He's making the right one too. I mean, they're fire and forget, and it's just one of them. So, you make as many as you can, and that's how many shots you have, basically. If they get a second shot, that's essentially just luck. But it does look like the damage is going to be mitigated. We are going to see the end of those crocodile tanks. Sort of a bummer, because they really could have done a lot more. I think anyway. But oh well, that's the way it goes. What that does mean, though, is that Dolphy has steadily and thoroughly secured the ocean. There's not really any contest for him anymore. I suppose he still has to somehow get rid of these mechs over here, but that shouldn't be a problem. One destroyer would be able to kill all this. And indeed, there we are. Oh, no, that's just an assault frigate. Yeah. That being said, there is still a hefty push from the red team. They've cleared out the middle entirely. In fact, they've eaten everything on it. Wow, that almost looks bizarre without all the ferns and rocks and whatnot. What a weird visual. Looks all trimmed and clean shaven. Weird. Anyway, are we seeing anything out of this guy? Looks like Tree Frog is pumping out Roughnecks, the gunships. Not a terrible option. They do damage. It's just the question of will it be enough. These bulls are really sturdy. It'll take a lot of T1 gunships to bring it down. Probably doing like 1 or 2% per attack. Yeah, it's gonna take a while. I'm not sure if he has that much time. We do have the nice fighter screen though, so at least it's safe. As far as an enemy fighter wall colliding goes. And these hounds are pushing all the way through, posing a very clear danger to this naval player here, Legion Commander. These hounds are probably able to shoot all that stuff over there. Yeah, they have more than enough range. And indeed, they're also going to be able to shoot these ships, of course. But they're going to take out all these windmills and energy converters, probably. Yeah, it looks like they're going to get far enough, and there's not really any way for these ships to contest them. The crocodiles might be able to put in some damage, but I don't know if they'll be able to stop them entirely. Really, this comes down to whether Dolphy can capitalize on this ocean that he's gained. If he can set up the appropriate facilities to push this properly. He's doing his damnedest. He's put these hovercraft platforms out, which is exactly what you want to do. Kind of an interesting selection of hovercraft for Cortex here. You have the assault tank, which is a big laser tank. You have a rocket launcher, and you have the regular tank, which is it's almost the same as a crocodile. And then you have a missile launcher. Oh, I guess it's only a anti-aircraft. Interesting. Well, it is quite interesting. But anyway, you pump these vehicles out eventually, and you're going to be able to swarm up this hill here. Although it is a hefty line of T1 defense, all these rocket bots put out a huge amount of damage. Rather, the Janus, the rocket launcher vehicles. This is looking pretty bad for the blue team, though, I will say. They're pretty far into the enemy line. It looks like Blue's eco has been almost entirely destroyed. Just down to his mexes now, no energy production. At least not that I can see. Things are looking pretty dire. It's going to take a pretty interesting play from the Blues team in order to counter all this. Now, I will say the Juno has amazing potential on this map because you can place a single Juno in this area, right in the center of this map, and that will stop all tick harassment coming through the center of the map, just entirely. So, if that's something that's harassing you, you know, be sure to remember that exists. It's a T1 constructor facility, I guess, the equipment, but or building. That's the word I'm thinking of. Jeez. But it's effectively a T2. Like, it really does take the T2, an amount of energy that you should have by T2. That sort of idea. That being said, if you want one and you know it's effective to use one. Oh, a nuke coming out here. This is a wonderful nuke. Look at the placement on this. Boom, and that wipes out that entire facility. That is unfortunate. Dolphy working very hard to set that thing up, and unfortunately all wiped out with a single attack. Now, Dolphy doing his best to stream out ticks and you know whatever else he can to help out his team, but I don't know if it'll be enough. Not doing anything with the shipyard, it looks like. Maybe Dolphy has resigned to the end of this game. Looks like we're finally building T2 ships. Not really a T2 economy here. It looks like I must have missed a battle here. There's a lot of broken down ships and stuff. Important to reclaim these, especially if you have the T1 lab. You might as well make some of these resurrection submarines and send them around to start reclaiming. Bunch of anti-aircraft here, I guess Volshock is trying to point out. Tick Swarm is not going to work against a bunch of these Tigers, though. These tanks are wonderful at dealing with this kind of swarm stuff. They fire really fast. They have a nice little AoE on their attack. The swarms, you know, it'll push into them, but it won't get very far. You can see a few of them made it here. Did a few % off a single tank. Mostly just a waste of resources. And a huge bombing run coming in here. Deflected by a few bots, but you know, they're still thinking about it. Looks like they're going to settle for this advanced geothermal plant. But even so, there's still a tremendous amount of these bots being pumped out, so they're swerved away from Dolphy's base. Instead, going to target this one, dropping a ton of bombs on this reactor. It does not go down, though. Just not quite enough. What a crazy back and forth here. This team is really trying their best to finish off this game, but they just won't leave. Bunch of survivors. 6%, 4% down. Quite the explosion. It does not take out the anti-nuke. That would be a nice play to bomb that. Really something Wing R should try and pay attention to is see this anti-nuke here when he's bombing and know that that's a good target. Especially since he, well, should know at least that his teammate has a nuke and it's, in fact, just about ready. Takes a lot of map awareness to be aware of that, though, so I don't blame him. Just something to pay attention to, especially if you know that one of your teammates is going to be going for nukes. Dolphy here doing his best to hold together this sea, contested as well as he can. Looks like a huge engagement is coming up over here. These are the assault subs, the T2 submarines, as well as some T2 cruisers, the Paladins, destroyers, which are T1, and a dreadnought battleship. This is a tough army. We do have a advanced torpedo launcher. These things are really nice, really helpful. Huge attack range, incredibly useful. Oh, but the nuke comes in and that has got to hurt. I don't care what planet you're from, that's gotta hurt. Oh yeah, that is a really bummer. Legion Commander now looks at his options and you know he's really just faced with like, well, do I rebuild on land? Do I go hovercraft? How do I contest this? And there's not a great answer to that question because all of these mexes are going to be within range for any of these T2 ships, any of the good ones anyway. Yeah, really out of good options here. This offshore torpedo launcher being a his last naval unit, so to speak. We do have a gunship just hanging out over here. That's interesting. Maybe it was supposed to be attacking this stuff over here and kind of got dissuaded. We do have a bunch of anti-air over here, so maybe it was with a contingent of ships that was attacking and they got turned away. We do have some bomber. I heard bombers unloading. Where are they? Maybe they got shot down. Anyway, those are some scouting craft. See those falling to the ground right now. Little radars attached to them. We do have an anti-nuke coming up, but there is already an anti-nuke, so I'm not sure what the idea behind this one is specifically. Bunch of ticks managing to run through, poking holes in this anti-air wall that Dolphy has nicely set up here. Ooh, but it looks like that's not where the bombers are going to strike, targeting this air facility. See, they do so much damage. When you concentrate these T1 bombers into attack groups like this, they can just really mow through anything. Targeting these fusion reactors, that's a nice play. Let's see if they can do it, though. Looks like they're not going to be able to. Dolphy coming really close on this one. Some of these brought down really low. This one brought down to almost 3%, although it wasn't finished, so it wouldn't have exploded. That could have been nasty. In fact, that bombing run, you know, it looked a lot worse than it actually was. You lost a lot of build power there in the form of construction turrets, but all things considered, that's not really as bad as it could have been. It could have been these advanced energy converters. Those are expensive. This is 2,400 metal worth of energy converters he's got here. Could have definitely been a lot worse. But we are slowly seeing all sides collapsing on this blue team here as the left team is just allowed to eco more and more and more. You can see they're up to 2 APHIS for Mom's Boy Toy. Swiggle Diggle going for 4 regular fusion reactors. That's a interesting play. 6, I mean. Sorry, not 4. What an interesting decision. That'll be slightly less efficient than just getting rid of 4 of these and turning them into APHIS. But, oh, I thought I turned Discord notifications off. Well, I do apologize for that. Let me see. Well, I'm not going to bother with it now. I feel like we're too far into this game. Yeah, the economy. Oh, I missed this over here. There's economy being built on this sector. That's a hefty bit of economy. What a huge bomber swarm being built up over here. Looking to take out this advanced torpedo launcher. They know exactly how big a threat these things are. And they are a big threat. They can take down juggernauts if you have enough of them. They really are quite a formidable defense. Look at these tick armies attacking each other. A bizarre occurrence. Trying to figure out what Dolphy's plan is. Ah, that's his plan. He's got some T3 units built. Chilling underwater right now. Yep. Now this is a really good idea. He's you know, this is kind of a desperation attempt. He had to eat up his T2 factory, but he also didn't really need it, right? Oh, he's got the Juno out. That's helpful. Use that to stop the tick spam, although it looks like the tick spam is over, except for his friendly tick spam. And your Junos do affect friendly ticks. That's something important to note. Something just went up in smoke over here. It looks like a bunch of energy converters. I'm not sure. Wow, a lot of fusion reactors here too. I missed that, but that is a lot of those. 43,000 metal in fusion reactors. For context, these advanced fusion reactors cost 9,000. Let's call it 10,000 to make the math easy. You're looking at basically 3, maybe maybe you could get 4 fusion reactors, 4 advanced fusion reactors out of that. Each of those produces 3,000 energy. So you could basically get an extra 3,000 energy by turning all of these into advanced fusion reactors. You get my math there. It's quick math, but I think it checks out. Oh, and that is tough to see. Dolphy's units being paralyzed now by EMP bombers. He does have the anti-aircraft. The anti-aircraft hovercraft. Wow, what a sentence. That one really stopped me up. I take a sip of water here. He has the anti-aircraft hovercraft. Oh, when he gets the hit he was looking for to take that base. And wow, really just wipe it off the entire map. Now these Shivas are forced to deal with a shield bubble, which actually will cause them to friendly fire on themselves quite often. But they do have their missiles, which are generally good enough to destroy this stuff. If they get close enough too, they can basically just force those attacks through. But the missiles will take down the Overseer, and the base is unguarded. Now there are Shivas assaulting this base, but we do have T3 tanks firing away. See them launching those massive torpedo missiles that they have. So these things have a depth charge launcher and a main cannon, and I believe they can actually fire their main cannon underwater as well. So they can, the way it looks is they sort of like shoot it and then the missile kind of like sinks underwater. At least I think that's what I've seen before. I could be wrong about that though. They're doing their best. These Devastator platforms are very, well, devastating. Who would have guessed? It looks like these Devastators aren't going to be enough, though, to take all this down. You know, the build power goes down, and that's going to be the end of this. And we do see the hover tanks. What are these called? Lunkheads. We do see the lunkheads tearing down this T3 facility. Dolphy gave it his best, but it's time to ponder if this is time for resign. Asks his teammates, sees what they think. Wow, those Shivas can just dish out so much pain. They have the missiles, they have those massive plasma balls that they shoot out. What a devastating unit, really. Dolphy doing his best to hold his team together. Looks like the northern eco was destroyed too. Probably that bombing run if I had to guess, but maybe it was some of these vehicles too. Looks like we have vehicles here to fight these, but we're just not microing them properly. Yeah, looks like Dolphy taps in. He's going to throw in the towel. He gave it all he got. Can't blame him for the effort that he gave, but it's just too much to go up against someone with this much eco building T3 units. You just can't contest it. At the end of the day, this really does come down to controlling these seas, and although Dolphy had this sea, he just was never able to get the control over it that he needed. Meanwhile, this sea essentially went uncontested the entire time. Legion Commander was pushed out very early, and there wasn't much time left afterwards to really swoop in and take it. You can admire these lunkheads tearing apart Dolphy's base, but that is going to be it. Watch as the world explodes for the blue team. The green team is victorious. Mom's Boy Toy, Contraption, Swiggle Diggle, Wing R, Unzord, Greenlee Stanza, and Corporal S-Ram, or SRAM. Be getting a lot of true skill out of this. Quite an intense battle, a real back and forth. And I really hope you all enjoyed. Hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Feel free to check out some of the other casts, as well as some tutorials if you're a new player. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.